This is Natalie Pace. Thank you for joining me for my special fireside. This is about the wealth secrets of the 1%. You'll be able to watch it back at YouTube at Natalie Pace, and you can share this with your friends. Email us at info@nataliepace.com to learn how they can gain access to. So today we're going to be talking about how and why some families retain their wealth for centuries, such as the family that owns this estate, while others lose it. In fact, most of us lose it within 2 generations or 3 generations. They work so hard to amass wealth and then poof, it's gone. So what are the secrets of the 1% that allow them to keep it? And how are they operating their lives differently than we are? And what can we do to emulate these are all legal, right? There's just a different way of thinking and organizing ourselves. If we're already wealthy, that's going to help us. But those of us that are not yet there, that are wanting to get there, even if you're a Henry, high income earner, not rich yet, or you're a boomer and you're worried about keeping that wealth and not, squirreling it away, however way that it all gets squirreled away, which happens obviously a lot. Otherwise, we wouldn't see all the wealth getting lost by the 3rd generation. So I will share with you, I've been studying this for 2 decades. These are experiences that I've learned firsthand, and I am happy to share them with you. So we'll get started momentarily, but understand that we're going to learn how to stop making everybody else rich. That includes the taxman, the debt collector, the landlord, the insurance companies, the utility companies, the gas station. We're going to learn all of this. We're going to learn what kind of accounts we should have, what kind of accounts we should not be doing things in. All this and much, much more. Again, remember, you can always reach us at info@nataliepace.com. And I also post money tips regularly on Instagram. And that's Natalie Wynne Pace, Wynne. All right, we'll get started in just a moment. All right, let's get started. So I'm going to show you a few slides. Many of the places I'm showing you, I have visited personally. So again, I am talking about things that I have discussed with others and kick the dirt on a bit. So the first thing I want to share is that these are strategies, and I don't want you to feel like, oh, I have to be rich and know how to keep my wealth in order for this to apply to me. Actually, all of us can start somewhere, right? If you have a lot of money and you are getting ready to retire, then now is the time when you want to be legacy planning. If you don't have a lot of money and you just graduated from college, that's one of the things that distinguishes rich people from most people. They actually talk about these things with their kids. That's going to be a constant theme in there, is that, a lot of people, especially in America, families don't talk about money. I have conversations with people about this all the time. I'm planning on posting a new blog about this next week. And the truth of the matter is, very wealthy people talk about money. I spoke with somebody who is a royal when I was in Britain, and we were talking, and she said, our family plans 100 years in advance. They know exactly which kid is going to get what, and they actually teach them how to be stewards of whatever it is that they're going to be inheriting. So this is a constant theme, is that it's not like, okay, once I die, you're going to discover what I've left to you. That is a way to easily lose a lot of money, especially through probate, attorneys, etc. In fact, another thing that distinguishes very wealthy families is that by the time they die, oftentimes most of the wealth has already gone to the other generation. And that is one of the ways that people are able to have everyone in the family live a richer life, have everyone in the family take stewardship of the estate, have everyone in this family learning how to embody wealth strategies. So again, it starts with communication. Obviously, we need education as well, but communication is key. Are we discussing wealth and the family estate and the stewardship of the family estate, and what we stand for? Are these conversations that we're having, or are we basically saying, okay, I'm doing my thing, you do your thing, and then, once I'm retired or once I die, then you'll be able to take my thing and that'll help you do your thing. That's not the way really wealthy people do it. So we're going to dive in. Again, I'm going to be showing you a lot of different slides that will hopefully help you on your journey. And again, even if you're just starting out, today's world of very high inflation requires a new set of rules. And so this is going to benefit you no matter where you are in your journey because, and again, this is a theme that we're going to be hitting the gas on repeatedly. Wealthy people think about everybody in their family, all of the generations, not just themselves. And that one day they'll start thinking about the other generation, or the other generation is in the wheel. They're always thinking about everybody in the family, that 100-year plan. So can we have at least a 10-year plan? Can we start educating ourselves and educating our children and including them in that 10-year plan? And can that plan be more than just my plan, right? This particular estate here, it's 500 years old, been in the same family for 500 years. In order for that to happen, instead of a lot of times, the kids will inherit the house and they're like, okay, let's sell it and let's divvy up the profits of it, right? And we'll get rid of it. Having a plan that involves stewardship of something like this, and maybe that's not the right strategy for you. So again, I'm going to show you a lot of different ways that people are able to amass and keep wealth in the family for literally centuries. And you develop your own plan. What feels right for you? That's what's going to be important. Which one of these strategies is the low-hanging fruit for you to start with first? Now, again, you do want to understand, and I'm going to be sharing these secrets with you, but the truth is that a lot of us are just not taught what I call life math. And, that's why Gary Becker enthusiastically recommended my strategies way back in the day when he wrote the foreword to put your money where your heart is, because he was saying, look, even very educated people are not necessarily educated about the Thrive budget or modern portfolio theory or the importance of regular rebalancing. So that is a piece of it, right? You don't want to be teaching someone to read if you don't know the ABCs yourself. So let's say that the foundation of keeping and retaining wealth is financial literacy. And that's an important thing to learn and to know. And we don't get it properly in school. So again, this is an estate. It's actually where we host our Royal Manor House retreat every other year. And it's one of the largest estates in Southern England. And meanwhile, 70% of Americans lose family wealth in the second generation, 90% by the third. So one of the ways that very, very wealthy people are keeping their money is they are not giving it all to Uncle Sam. And there are many ways that you can do that. I'm going to show you a few of them. A good estate planning attorney can be helpful, but you have to make sure that they really know their stuff on a very high, if you're a high net worth person, then they need to know it on the very high level scale, right? That might not be just your average accountant. So it's important to just understand what the skill set is. You're the boss. All of these different financial advisors work for you, and they have different levels of expertise, and they might even have a specific clientele that they cater to. These would be important things to understand. So let me show you a couple of the tricks that really wealthy people use so that they don't give all their money to Uncle Sam. And by the way, a lot of people will say, oh, I have a trust in place. Well, a trust basically says what, the people who inherit your money can and can't do, but it's not necessarily the best way of just protecting your money from the tax man. So it's important to know these other strategies as well and not just say, oh, I have a trust. Okay. All right. So in 2011, Warren Buffett very famously stated that he pays a lower tax rate than his secretary. So how does that happen? And that's because earned income is taxed at a much higher rate than passive income. Now we're going to talk about that. So you sometimes will hear me say, rich people do not put their money in jars. Rich people are protecting their money in tax protected accounts. Now, one of the ways that you can do that for yourself, and we're going to talk about that in a moment, is to make sure that you are aware of all the tax protected accounts that you might qualify for. I'll list a few. Uh, our 401k through an employer, a Roth IRA that you open at a brokerage, a traditional or a SEP IRA that you open at a brokerage, a health savings account. This one is really important, especially if you're under the age of 65. You don't qualify for it by the time you're 65. And especially if you're healthy and spending an arm and a leg on health insurance, because this is a way that you get a tax credit, so you pay less to the tax man. You get the high deductible, you pay less to the health insurance company, and you're also starting to build up your own health retirement account. In retirement, the biggest expense is going to be healthcare at some point. So that's the way that a lot of people in retirement actually go bankrupt. So if you have amassed a great deal of money in a health savings account, that's going to be a benefit to you as well. And again, once you get a certain amount in there, at least 3 years of whatever your cash out of pocket will be at that higher deductible, you can start investing it as well. Compounding gains, again, it's tax protected and no capital gains taxes. So all of these things become super important for us to realize. A lot of people invest in crypto wallets and all these other things. And if you actually capture gains and it's not in a tax protected retirement account, a lot of that money will go to Uncle Sam, especially if it's short-term cap gains. So again, these are just some of the basics that wealthy people really understand. They understand the difference between short-term and long-term capital gains. They understand the difference between investing in tax protected retirement accounts versus a regular brokerage account. Let me show you another big example of that. So ProPublica had reported that Peter Thiel, who's a billionaire, reportedly has $5 billion in his Roth IRA. And again, investments held in a tax-protected retirement account are not subject to capital gains taxes. So he was a founder of PayPal, a founder of Palantir, and the first outside investor of Facebook. And apparently, he was putting a lot of those investments in his Roth IRA. Now, this is not just one of those backdoor transactions. If he had a lot of warrants that he was able to put in there, or even early stage investments, again, this is going to be something that's just going to keep increasing his wealth in that Roth IRA. And even if he is capturing gains in there, he's not having to pay capital gains taxes on it. And as an added benefit in your Roth IRA, when you pull the money out, you don't pay income tax on it. So again, we want to be aware of all of these accounts so that we keep our money and stop making Uncle Sam rich. That's one of the wealth secrets that we really want to be very, very aware of. So again, also, it's important for us to understand why we invest at all. And this chart tells us that. If we are just depositing money, and by the way, a lot of savings accounts these days, there are a few that will pay, 4% interest, but a lot of them are still paying zero. So again, it's a little amount of money. The average gains of stocks are over 10% annualized. And that's why we do take on a little risk in the stock market, because when we earn a 10% gain and that gain compounds, that's how we're going to get wealthy. Now, of course, as we get closer to retirement, we have to be very concerned about the money that we keep safe and making sure that is earning whatever the safe rate of income is. Right now, it's about 4% without paper losses. So again, this is back to the foundation of financial literacy. And it is a foundation and it is cumulative. So, in the beginning, we might feel like, oh, this is too much to know. But if we spent less time watching CNBC and reading all of our financial journals and more time just learning the basics, we'd actually be a lot better off. All right. So another secret of very wealthy people is that they really stop making everybody else rich. I've listed a few of the ways. It's the taxman, the landlord, the debt collector, the credit card company, the insurance salesman, the gas station, the utility company, and much, much more. So, I mean, I know again, from whether they are colleagues or in the Earth Gratitude Project, we have some very high profile contributors. We have people in our financial literacy project that are very high profile. So these are conversations that I've been having for the past 20 years. And it's very interesting to me because it was a casual conversation I had with somebody who's got a net worth probably in the tens of millions, right? And this particular person, for their kid, when they were getting ready to do the car insurance for their 16-year-old, the 16-year-old is learning how to start paying their own bills, right? And this particular 16-year-old was going to pay for his car insurance. And so the dad was like, naturally the 16-year-old was just listening to the insurance salesman, who naturally most of his clients just like to pay the monthly payment. And the dad looked at it and he's saying, wait, why are you giving XYZ amount in interest by paying the monthly payment? Let's just pay it for the year and you don't pay interest. Now, it's not that much money that goes in that interest, but that's what I mean to say is that it's so embedded in the way that they think that they're not going to even, spend a couple $100 on financing car insurance. It's embedded in the way they look at everything. They're always going to be not making everybody else rich. That's just going to be embedded in the whole ethos of not only themselves, but what they're teaching their kids. I also told you Royals plan 100 years ahead, but what I didn't tell you yet is that they monetize their land. Now, if you inherit a castle, you're going to have to learn how to monetize it. Otherwise, the family loses it because they are expensive to maintain. So I told you already that I actually rent out this house every other year. I invite a few guests to come and join me there that are experienced volunteers, hoping that we will form a brain trust and uplift and inspire one another for a week so that we can have, these beautiful higher level conversations. And, another piece of the puzzle is partnerships and communities. So we'll talk about that a little bit more. But we stay at a place where the owners sleep too. The owners walk there, they sleep there, all of that. So why are they doing that? Like a lot of us are thinking, hey, I wouldn't want strangers in my home. And honestly, when I bring guests in there, I'm a little worried because there's some artifacts in there that I'm hoping nobody steals or takes with them, right? Because it is their home. We really are having to consider ourselves as guests in their home. And That's what I want you to think about, right? Like, I'm not saying that your right answer is to invite strangers into your home. Only you know what the right answer is. But what I'm saying is that really wealthy people who keep the money in their family for centuries are finding ways that they get paid. At least some of their bills get paid by having other people. Now, this particular one here is not, it's not the house I'm showing you here. It's this is the Duchess of Northumberland. She lives at Alnwick Castle. Alnwick Castle is known as Hogwarts. So not only do they get featured in all of the Harry Potter films, but they actually have a thriving tourism to visit their castle for all the people that are just Harry Potter fanatics. You can, they have all kinds of things, Quidditch, all kinds of crazy things going on there. Now, the other thing that a lot of people are not aware of is the multi-generational housing aspect that really wealthy people do as well. So if you watched The Crown, you might have seen certain scenes where you, especially in the earlier ones, Queen Elizabeth, you would see Margaret, you would see the Queen Mother, you would see Prince Philip, and they might all be gathered in one room to watch television or to have a cocktail and watch television, right? And they have a community dining room. If you're watching Downton Abbey, they all get together in the community dining room. So these kinds of things are other ways. The younger generation, rather than going and making the landlord rich, might live in, the castle, and they might come down and have meals with the family even when they're adults. So let's take a look at some of the other things here. So Kensington Palace is the one of the official residences of the Prince and Princesses of Wales. They were certainly there for a long time when they first got married before they had kids. So again, royals don't buy their own castles either. And Kensington Palace has many, many apartments there. And obviously, you can tour Kensington Palace. You can walk in Kensington Gardens. You can have a meal at Kensington Gardens. Now, another piece of this is that education into the family business really starts at birth. And, we'll talk a little bit more about that. But, let's say, for instance, that you are a doctor and, it might not be like a family business because maybe your kids are not going to go into medicine, or maybe you don't even want them to. That's okay. But there is a certain way that you think about money. There is a certain way that you think money should be used. Should it be something that everybody just is big pleasure seekers and you're going to go out yachting all the time? Or do you think that money is actually something that can do good in the world? So, whatever your family ethos is, about education, about how money can be used, how you can live a richer life, sustainability, all of these things, kids watch what you do. So you don't have to just be like preaching all the time. But, it is something that you want to have as part of the thread of the conversations that you have with people too in the family. So obviously, on these high profile families, we see them at big events. Now, one of the other things I wanted to say is that, almost all of it's not even just wealthy people. Um, Almost everybody who gets a good education in Europe takes a gap year before they go to university. And the statistics on that are highly correlated with better success in college. It's not as common in the United States as it is in Europe, but it is something that is highly correlative with better success in college. I took more than a gap year, and I must tell you, when you come back, you are so appreciative of the value of education. Whereas if you go straight out of high school, it feels like just like learning is your job and you don't really understand why you're doing it as much. So I will just say, that having that gap year, if you have kids and they are still in high school, that is something that you want to consider. Also, college isn't right for everybody. You may or may not know this, but Prince Harry did not go to college. He actually went into the military instead. So, it's each kid is going to have something that is just better for them. Now, in the beginning, we want to make sure also, I tell parents that they should be getting into the ABCs of money for college when their child is born. Also, grandparents, you can contribute to college savings accounts, you can contribute to education. Um, the minute the kid is working, they can start their own IRA. If they're under the age of adulthood, then it has to be a dependent IRA that you sponsor. Also, the ABCs of Money for College can teach people how to get a better degree for half the cost. And that's huge because the last time I checked, college loan debt is $1.6 trillion. So it's really important to understand that the college experience and just, going on that path is so well trodden is not really adding up for people. I know my son and he did get a better degree for half the cost and he still complains about his college loan debt and he's not even sure that it was worth it. So I'm just saying is that let's start planning this earlier. Let's start planting the seeds of the gap year. Let's start planting the seeds of let's have a 5-year plan for college, not I want to go in and have my college experience. Okay. Sustainability is something that a lot of very wealthy people are really leading the charge on. So it's not just one thing. It could be regenerative agriculture. Most European, and it's starting to happen more in the United States, most European countries, it's kind of embedded in the ethos now that, and probably has been even way well before sustainability, just because electricity bills are expensive, right? So, like when I'm in Italy, very few people have a dryer. Most people use a clothing rack. Sometimes they have those clothing lines that are strung between buildings. So, in other countries, they're really aware of the cost of electricity. So it was before it became a green thing to do, and it was more like, that's too expensive, right? So buildings will have an air test to make sure that nobody is heating or cooling the outside. A lot of our greatest insulation strategies were developed in Germany and Switzerland. So these are all things that we can do and we can get smarter about doing, even if you don't want to do solar. Again, power is one way of, solving it, doing your own power instead of just paying the electric company. You'll still have to pay them something. But the other thing too is that if you reduce the amount that you need, it's not necessarily a change in lifestyle. And by the way, even renters could do this because renters have to pay their own electric bill too. So we talk a lot about this in our retreat. I have a green PowerPoint that I show people, but also I have a chapter in the ABCs of Money on how to save thousands annually in your electric bill. And this is something that very wealthy people do. They're just not into, again, as I said, they don't want to pay extra money on interest. They don't want to pay extra money to the utility company. They don't want to pay extra money to the gas station. So they're really, really wealthy people that are going to keep the money in the family. Nouveau riche, they don't. They want everything bling, bling. I want a private plane. I want to, this and that. That's not the experience. It's so funny because the first time when I was going to go do some work on some of these royal estates, I was talking to an investment banker and he was like, my experience is that some of these royals are actually kind of cheap. And I was like, I would consider that I would use a different term. I would say discerning, right? So they're aware. They're stewards of wealth. They're stewards of property. And they're aware of the fact that in order to be a proper steward, you don't have money flying out the window. So solar, if you live in a sunny state, there's still a 30% tax credit. Energy efficiency upgrades have tax credits available. Big appliances are energy hogs. Small appliances are energy vampires. You can learn more about this in the ABCs of Money. Be sure you get the sixth edition. And we also talk about it at the retreat. Okay, so insulation. Um, I love this because honestly, again, before I learned it, I just didn't add it up and it seems so logical now. So our bodies are 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. And what we're comfortable in is closer to the 70s, right? So if you have a well-insulated house and you put bodies in there, it's going to get hot. You're going to even have to open a window or something like that. So this particular house that I'm showing you this picture of, I actually toured it. And it's got an incredible story. If you would like to see that story, email info@nataliepace.com. The people who built it actually saved that land. So this is a home in upstate New York that's been in the same family for over a century, and they saved that land from going to become a nuclear power plant. And then when they were going to build their own home, they were like, if we save this home from becoming a nuclear power plant, how can we reduce the amount of power that we actually need? And they found out about passive house technology. They built their house according to this passive house technology, and they only had to turn the heating on twice in the winter. So again, they're doing things smarter means that your lifestyle is still the same, but you're cutting your costs. And all of that can go for things you like a lot more than paying an electric bill. And that's the house, Hudson Valley. And again, if you would like to read about this particular couple and how they saved their home, when she was in her teens from the nuclear power plant and then built this home when she was a grown up, it's kind of a cool story. So stop making ExxonMobil and the automakers rich. The reason I put this in here is that, you might not see a lot of we always see royals and world leaders in motorcades and with all these people behind them, or we think, oh my gosh, they're going to have to take a private jet everywhere. But I'm seeing more and more, and they don't always advertise it, that, we did see a very high profile time when the Princess of Wales took her kids on a commercial flight. That was all about setting an example for all of us about lowering CO2. It wasn't that they can't afford, a private plane, or maybe even the government pays for it. Prince William very often does travel by train. And that's as an example for us. But again, that's also a way to stop making gas stations rich at our own expense. So, whereas that might not be the biggest piece of their budget, because again, world leaders, those expenses are covered by their position. For those of us, $8,000 or more every year goes for having a car. When I gave up my car, and I live in Santa Monica, which is a suburb, well, it's next to LA, and it's not a suburb. But anyway, it's very car centric. And I resisted it, even though I travel so much. I paid people to drive my car so that the battery wouldn't die. I spent more than most people spend on rent, having it housed properly. And I finally gave it up. And it was crazy because you can spend so much less. And you're getting healthier from walking more, biking more. When you do need a car, you can rent it. You can take ride share. I take Waymo now. I take a robocab, robotaxis. So again, there are ways of rethinking everything that we think is a bill. And once we stop making everybody else rich, we can start amassing wealth. And that can start happening even if you don't feel very wealthy yet. Or if you're wealthy parents with kids who just graduated from college and are trying to make ends meet, are they overspending on their car? Is that a conversation that you should start having with them? Um, Amsterdam, I wish that I had put this picture in there, but I didn't. In the 70s was gridlock, pollution, all these cars driving and parking on the sidewalks. It was just crazy, right? And there were actually a few fatalities of kids. And the parents got together, the moms got together, and they changed the system and turned it to a biking culture. Santa Monica has been doing this slowly, turning into shared roads. And, it's taken a while. When I first started riding a bike here, we didn't even have clearly marked bike paths. And now it's definitely moving in that direction of shared roads and kinder roads. So I would just say just get more educated on this. And there are ways, even if you don't feel that it's safe yet in your neighborhood for bikes, that you can maybe start making it safe. And your health will thank you, and your wallet will thank you if you do. So another way that very wealthy people are different from a lot of us is that they're the boss of their money. Their financial team works for them. They're aware that brokers can be salesmen, not surgeons, and they know the life math that we should all received in high school. A friend of mine was a bond. She was working in the bond industry, and she worked for one of the billionaires that is located in the LA area. And this particular person came down every single day to see what she had done. He knew everything. Now, I don't believe in that kind of micromanagement. As you well know, I believe in making sure that you have an age appropriate, properly diversified plan that you rebalance once, twice, or three times a year. But that is more important than blind faith that somebody else is doing it for you, or not knowing how to read your brokerage statements. I know, I have some high net worth clients, and they spend so much time earning income. And then they just, have, it's not that they have blind faith, but they trust that the person they hired to manage their money for them is going to do a good job. And that person will say, I'm doing a great job, and we're doing this as per what you want in this area and that area. And, that person will come to me for a second opinion, and I'll look at their brokerage statement and I'll say, what they told you there, that you're making 5 or 7%, that's not true. Your exact brokerage statement says that you're making 2% and you lost all the money in this. And by the way, you have a bond here that's an 85-year term, that's a junk bond, and you already lost 30% on it. So again, you need to know how to read your statements. We're talking about that foundation of financial literacy. You can't be the boss if you don't know the basics, right? Um, and and that helps you to not be taken in by, again, the easiest way is that people are taken in, and their money is separated from them. Oftentimes it's from family members. It's might be well-meaning people, hot tips, that sort of thing. So you're welcome to take a picture of this if you want. It's something that we go over a lot in our retreats. There's actually a blog that gives you details on each one of these strategies. But again, you want to just be religious about it. This is your 10 commandments of money. Is whatever you earn, put 10% into your tax protected retirement accounts. And again, there's going to be a multitude of them. There might be your employer sponsored one. There might be your personal IRA. There might be your personal health savings account. It might be also the college savings account for your kids. It might be a dependent IRA for your kids. Maybe that's going in another part of your Thrive budget. And then you need it to be age appropriate. You might want to consider market conditions. You need to know what is safe, especially in a debt world where over half of the S&P 500 is at or near junk bond status. You want to be properly diversified. You can lean into things that are going to be healthier, companies that are healthier, get hot, rebalance once, twice, or three times a year to keep it age appropriate and properly diversified. Think capture gains, not stop losses. We talked about that, and be the boss of your money. Now, this is what a sample pie chart looks for a 30-year-old who is overweighted, 20% safe. And again, this is not buy and hope, right? It's get it rebalanced once, twice, or three times a year. And here's what it looks like if you're 50, overweighting, 20% safe. And as a reminder, this simple strategy earned gains in the Great Recession and the dot-com recession and has outperformed the bull markets in between. It's as easy as a pie chart, but you must rebalance once, at least once a year. And again, this is something we teach at the retreats, but you can also read about it in the ABCs of Money. Again, just make sure you're getting the 6th edition. The Thrive budget, and this is a big piece of it too, 50% to survive, 50% to thrive, right? So the sad truth about very wealthy people, they are not spending 50% of their budget to survive because they're paying lower taxes. They're probably, they may not be paying anything for housing, right? They may not be paying as much in insurance as we are because they may be kind of self-insured on things, right? So a lot of the things that we pay as, people that are not yet in the 1%, they're not paying. So in order for us to get there, we have to adopt some of the strategies that are helping them not to pay that. So how, if you're Princess Charlotte, you don't ever have to worry about paying rent. Never. Your entire life, unless there's an entire revolution. And you probably are not going to have to worry about your transportation. Now, of course, okay, I'm not Princess Charlotte. I wasn't born with a silver spoon. In fact, I'm a copper miner's daughter, and I was born in a very financially challenged neighborhood. So there are so many, that's the beauty of America, is that there are so many ways that you can start getting yourself up that path to wisdom, that you can start getting yourself a little bit more financially free, right? And I talk about it as financial freedom instead of being a billionaire or a trillionaire, because what you really want to be able to do is to make sure that you're working towards a day in your life where every moment you spend is something you really believe in. You believe you're helping, whether it's your family, you're a stay-at-home mom, or you're helping humanity, maybe you're in the bonus years and you're working to give back. But the goal is, as Buddha would say, if you work at a job you love, you never have to work a day in your life. The goal is financial freedom so that you are spending your days the way you think they should be spent. That's true wealth right there. So let's take a look at some of the thrive portion in detail. We talked a little bit about the survive portion, right? Because in order to thrive, we have to stop making everybody else rich. We have to limit at least, a lot of people think 50% is difficult. Really wealthy people are not spending half to survive, right? So we have to start rethinking that, and not just for us. Let's think like wealthy people do. Let's think about the older generation and the younger generation. When we started out this, I told you that, just look at some, the crown is based on a real thing, right? So the older generation and the younger generation are all living in the same vicinity and eating the same meals together in the same dining room. So let's start applying that. Now you might say, well, it's not going to work out that great because my kid likes to come in late and play their music really loud. Well, the interesting thing about these bigger houses or these bigger estates is that there's a way for people to have even more privacy and maybe do things differently in their own little space than other people do in their own little space. And learn how to live in a community, right? Learn how, okay, so we all are eating in the same dining room, so I'm not going to leave a big mess for the people that come in after me. Partnership and community. So when we talk about the Thrive budget, the first 10% of our income before we think about paying rent. Now, of course, I'm not saying be homeless and do this. I'm saying put your mind on it, right? Like where you focus your energy first should be, I want to earn money while I sleep. So make sure that 10% is going into those tax protected retirement accounts and that you have adopted an age appropriate, properly diversified plan that you rebalance once, twice, or three times a year. Second one, charity. Why do I say charity as a second one? Because charity is the best networking. Every great advance in my personal life, in my personal career, has come as a direct result of my charitable contributions from the Financial Literacy Project, born as the Women's Investment Network, that was born in with some women that I was raising funds to put in a computer lab at our public school, to the Earth Gratitude Project that was born of my desire to really kick the dirt on sustainability projects that I could feature. So charity is the best networking. You find your people, and they can be the wind beneath your wings to some of those passion projects becoming realized. So again, the Earth Gratitude Project, this is the home farm manager of King Charles. At the time, he was the Prince of Wales. This was another project that we did to honor some women. This was us bringing Queen Diambi to Restormal and introducing her to a lot of very high profile people there that hopefully they will have some great projects together with. Sometimes you just don't even know, right? Like when I first started featuring the Earth Gratitude Project and going and kicking the dirt, all of this was on my dime. Nobody paid me anything for it. They didn't cover my travel expenses. I just did it, right? And you just don't know where it leads, like when I invited Queen Diambi to Restormal, that's still pretty fresh, right? We don't know where that's going to lead. But what we do know is we made some introductions and the soil is fertile. So the chances are that there will be some great things that come of that, are good, right? And again, you don't do charity for what you get back. You do charity with giving in your heart, thinking this is something that would just be a good thing to do, right? And you don't know what it's gonna you don't know what it's gonna give back to you at all, right? But you believe in it and you believe it. That's what charity, that's what giving is. No expectation of what you're getting back. Okay. But it changes you in ways, and it also helps you in ways that are very hard to imagine. Education is the highest correlating factor with income. So it is a good idea to think about higher education for most people, right? But there are some people where it's just not a match for them. Again, I used a very high profile example of Prince Henry. He just wasn't a good match for that. But he's a great speaker, right? Like he was one of the most popular royals when he would go to visit people because he was so personable, he was a great speaker, and people just loved him. So everybody has their own little thing, their own little niche. And you just want to, try to let your kids flourish in whatever way is going to be right for them and guide them down that path. But if you do believe that, higher education is going to be a good match for your kids, definitely read the ABCs of Money for College so that you can get a better degree for half the cost and have a 5-year plan, not just we'll get them into whatever school accepts them, right? And here, it's just really adding up to a lot of student loan debt. Health is the best health insurance. So one of the things that we talk about in the Thrive budget is fun. And for me, a lot of my fun is tango dancing and yoga and other things like that, right? It's not tax deductible. It may not be part of my education. It's not money while you sleep, but it is fun for me. And it is a deposit into a wealth system because health is wealth and health is the best health insurance. So, whatever it is that you want to do for fun, chances are it is healthy for you because things you enjoy do create happy hormones in your body, and that's really good for you. Also, HSAs are fiscally healthy. So learn more about health savings accounts, especially if you are under the age of 65 and healthy and spending an arm and a leg on health insurance. Even if you're not, you should still look into HSAs as a way because this is going to be the best long-term health care, right? So health, supplemental Medicare insurance can start to add up. And if you have all this money in your health savings account, you're not going to need it. And that's another way that your kids and grandkids and those people that come after you are going to get more of the family wealth, that you stop making the health insurance company rich. So we are going to have another Restormo Royal Manor House immersive adventure. Again, I do rent it out for a week, and I'm going to be doing this in March of 2027. I will be inviting experienced volunteers who are all there to up level, uplift, and create great ideas together. So that's it for our fireside about the wealth secrets of the 1% that we can all adopt to live a richer life, stop making everybody else live, start amassing wealth. It does require financial foundation. It does require thinking 3 generations instead of me, glorious me, all the time. It does require thinking at least 10 years. Again, we talked about families that think 100 years that they're planning. So that's the way that we are going to live financially free, live a richer life, provide better for the next generation and the generation after that, and also create the world that we really want to create. What is it that we think our money should be expressing in the world? And remember also that money is a form of currency, but so is time and so is talent, right? So I always say this, every cent you own and every moment you spend is always an investment. So what are you investing in? What are you creating? All right, I'm going to stop it here just to see if anybody has any questions, and I'll come back and close it out just a moment. All right, so I hope you guys have stuck around because I actually have one more tip for you. And this is one that actually came from an estate planning attorney. So I was just saying, look, what do you do for your high net worth clients? And one of the things, and it's also interesting because it's something that we've seen Warren Buffett do. So first off, Warren Buffett, every one of his kids has their own foundation. Secondly, is that and we see this in a lot of high net worth families. So a lot of their, like an estate might, this is owned by the Duchy of Cornwall. And so whatever entity you have, whether it's an LLC or a business, you could actually start gifting under the gift tax level, steady, slow, to each one of your family members units of the business. And that's one of the ways that the business starts transferring into the other generations. And one of the ways that, again, as you get older, your participation in it becomes smaller, the younger generation becomes bigger, so that by the time you actually transition into our, unknown realm of the heavens, that those that are still here on earth are now, they are now the stewards, and they've learned about the business. They may be answering to a CEO or a board. So it's very different. If you have a foundation, you have a set of rules about what it is, how it is that the money has to be, the grants have to be done, but also they will have a board of directors there that, is a fiduciary responsibility. So one of the easiest ways I used to call them, sadly, I call them trust fund babies. So, one of the easiest ways to lose wealth is to not have these structures in place for your kids. So if a kid just inherits a bunch of money, and it doesn't even have to be a bunch, it could just be a bunch to them, right? Like I've known people that have inherited a house and then they got bad financial advice and they lost the house. Or, the same thing can happen in regular investments. There was one person that was, pretty decent income from a pretty decent business he inherited from his parents. And we called them what do we call them? The stray dogs. So the stray dogs would always come into his life and say, "Oh, I've got this great investment for you. It's called Magic Water, and it's here." And he would just write checks with all these investments and not even get any certificate that he owned anything. So again, you really want to understand how it's not just through having a trust, which is a good idea, but it's also that are there other things? If you have a business, when and how should you start willing units under the gift tax level and to whom? And also, it might be that it's a better idea to think about, the various assets that you have. That's one of the ways, like, again, if the whole family inherits everything, a little piece of everything, what they tend to do is just to sell it and then divvy up all the money. Whereas if you say, okay, the house is worth this much, the 401k is worth this much, this particular business is worth this much. This kid loves this business. Okay, so let's start giving this kid this business. This kid is not suited for that business, but they have a great career. This person is probably going to really benefit from inheriting the house and being a steward of that. So that's some of the ways that I want you to think about it as well, is that creating stewardship in the kids over what it is that they're going to be inheriting and starting that early, and even starting the process of them inheriting ownership in it early. Because even if they only own $15,000 of something that's worth $1 million, if they know next year they're getting another 15,000, and if the value of the 1 million increases, now it's worth, you know what I'm saying? So it gets them interested. People lean in when they have skin in the game. All right, I'm going to stop it here. And I want to thank you guys for joining me. Again, this is something that we are going to make available as a gift when people are purchasing other products. So if you have somebody else who could use a second opinion or join us for a financial freedom retreat, they're going to be getting this Fireside as one of our gifts to them as well. And
I
always
do.
email
I
us
do.
at info@nataliepace.com and visit nataliepace.com and join us on social media. Let me show you real quickly where you can find that. So again, if you are going to nataliepace.com, under my picture, Facebook, X, Instagram, LinkedIn, emailing us, our podcast, YouTube channel, all there. The YouTube is free, monthly video conferences, podcast free as well. And I am doing a retreat this weekend. So do join us for that as well. The retreat, you can go to nataliepace.com and click on it, but it's April 25th through the 27th online, no travel, no lodging expenses. Hope to see you there. And I'm going to stop it here.